Вітаю! Це передача Security Talks і наш гість сьогодні Енді Бейн, полковник морської піхоти Сполучених Штатів Америки і людина, яка знає, як відбувається застосування морської піхоти в бойових умовах. Mr. Andy, it's nice to meet you, and first of all, I would like to know that what would be your recommendation how to upgrade Ukrainian Marine Corps?
How to upgrade the Ukrainian Marine Corps? Marines are an elite force and they're excellent shock troops. And the Ukrainian Marines are living up to that standard. They train with the U.S. Marines over in the United States at the officer level. Our Marines have come over here and trained with them. I think there is a great opportunity for Ukrainian Marines to continue to develop and become the elite force that they are in a way that better integrates with NATO command structure. I think learning English the way all NATO officers understand English will help integrate. I think training to NATO standards in staff and organization is important. Adapting weapon systems is important. But most important is permeating and furthering their culture of being warriors. They very much are successful in that. The video and information we send back to the United States has the Americans in awe of how effectively they are performing on the battlefield. And I think the future of a U.S. and Ukrainian Marine Corps partnership is very strong.
What do you think of possibility to have for Marine Corps so-called heavy weapons, maybe artillery, tanks? Is it?
Well, in fact, the U.S. Marine Corps is just getting rid of tanks, and the Marines have historically been light infantry, light elite infantry, flexible, adaptable, and expeditionary. So able to move quickly and hit quickly, and heavy equipment like tanks and artillery often slow them down. So the U.S. Marines often rely on the Army for those. We do have our own airplanes, which Ukraine doesn't have yet, and we do rely on naval gunfire, of which Ukraine doesn't have a lot of. So that's an advantage Americans have. But I would not focus too heavily on integrating those into the Ukrainian Marine Corps, but being able to work with them is clearly important. When shock troops, Ukrainian Marines are in Zaporizhia in the attack, they desperately need the artillery support. Doesn't mean they necessarily have to have as much of it as the Army does.
And what would be your estimation of readiness Ukrainian Marine Corps to do operations maybe against Russian troops, against ships? Is it possible right now?
Against ships, I think in the current war, that's not necessarily a Marine function, that's more a naval function at present. You're doing small raids. From what I know, I think they're very capable of that. But you know, a large part of their mission is also going across the Dnieper River, going into battle as elite troops that can lead the charge ahead of the Army in some circumstances. I don't think that you know, they have had to develop so quickly in the last year and a half. Luckily, they had a good solid base to do that with, but there's been so much change and so much dynamic evolution in the battlefield that they need, you know, they're going to need some time to step back and think of as to their future rather than, I think, take on more missions immediately.
Ukraine now has a small experience to attack Russian ships, and I would like to know what's your estimation of this action. Is it a good idea or it's only psychological result?
To attack Russian ships?
Yeah.
Naval ships? Always. No, yes, very much. But I think technology gives better ways, and the sinking of the Moskva last year, you know, the whole world knows about that. And it was not just a tactical victory, it was a huge strategic victory, as now the world understands Ukraine can fight head-to-head with the Russians and win. And I think that continue to do that. But it's a lot of the warfare, you know, taking out Russian ships is going to be missiles or now naval drones, which are different from naval infantry.
Is it a good idea for Ukraine to develop naval drones?
Yes, yeah. I mean, Ukraine has a very strong opportunity and lead in drone warfare, and it's obvious to the world how critical that will be in the future. The way tanks and airplanes came in 100 years ago and changed warfare, drones are changing it again, and Ukraine is the lead laboratory for that. And it's fascinating to see how quickly Ukraine is adapting and developing new tactics and techniques as well as equipment. And naval drones make a lot of sense.
Mr. Ed, many thanks for your participation in our dialogue, and we would like to use it for your recommendation for development of our Marine Corps.
Thank you. I'm very proud to be able to help at all.
Хочу нагадати, що гостем передачі Security Talks був Енді Бейн, полковник у запасі американської морської піхоти. Побачимося.